Welcome to Dynamic Character Productions. We are covering our second long game, Monte Carlo, episodes 11 and 12. I'm your host, Alex Trias, and here with me today are two special guests. One, you don't usually see her in front of the camera. She's usually in charge of pulling people around in our minis to their confessionals. It's Carrie Underwood. Carrie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm not normally in front of the camera, but here I am today.
And what are your thoughts on the season so far?
It's been a lot of fun. Obviously I lived it, but it's been a lot of fun. Like there's things that you miss when you're living it. And so I think McKenna has done a really good job of telling the story in a really concise way. So it's been so much fun watching it back.
Awesome. And our other guest, I believe, to my knowledge, he is our second ever two-time player of DCP lore. You saw him on the first long game, Exile Island, and you saw him for a longer period of time in Irariki Island, our third mini. It's Bill. Bill, how are you doing? How you been enjoying the season?
Good. This has been really good. And I've got to say, I fell behind a little bit, so I've binged over the last 2 days. And it's like, I love this. This is almost the season of the underestimated.
Oh, for sure.
Going long here are the people who were like, they're no threat. They're no threat. And all the big folks either took each other down or, in the case of, I think, the two episodes we're going to focus on, just kind of ignored them until it was too late.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know from yourself, you have some good previous game and personal history with a handful of the players on this season. If you want to get a little more in depth there.
Yeah. I played Exile Island with Connor, who I never got to be on the same tribe with. My stay was brief. But seemed like a good kid, but his game seems to have improved vastly. And then my Queen Victoria. I adored her the first game I played. I adore her watching her now. And the growth that she's had in between games is just exponential. And then there are Kiley and Mike. I love them both. Kiley is a wonderful, incredibly social person, wonderful mother, love her to death. Mike is a great kid. I played in the game that the two of them played together and managed to keep under wraps. And like I said, they're both lovely people, but when you put them together, it's kind of like Satan's spawn.
Accurate.
And the only time in a game where I have ever been like truly blindsided was via Kiley and Mike. So they're good. They're very good together. They make a great team. It was also interesting to watch sort of how their game may have changed a little bit. And in this case, not to their advantage, or at least not to Kiley's. She went to the final.
Yes. So with that, I've been saying in the last few recaps, I want to hear your take on it, being someone who has worked alongside them or played the game with them. I kept saying Kiley was playing great. Like they both in their own right were playing their own games, but they were always going to be tethered to each other because they chose to be tethered to each other. Wouldn't you feel like it would have been maybe it wouldn't have been Kiley's best move to make sure Mike didn't protect Mike in the round prior to the merge, but maybe she could have had him go to the jury earlier, still have Parker and Margaret and potentially Andrew around as people who trusted her in this specific game. And then you have Mike in the jury who's going to be amping up Kiley's game. And I thought that's what she should be doing. But as she kept saying, to the detriment of my own game, I'm going to keep pushing along. I want to be in final two with Mike because we're friends. We've done this. We wanted to do this before. We didn't do it. Let's do it this time. Do you think that sort of it was it's a good stubbornness I want to say that first off, it's not a bad stubbornness to be like, I really want to do this for my friend. But do you feel like that it got in the way of her own game?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Strategically, that would have been exactly the right move because it would have detached her from Mike. And it also would have given her some cred with Stephen and Victoria and McKenna et al. She would never do that. That's just, again, who Kiley is. She's so sweet. And if she is in fact, and I do the same thing, it's like if you've got your person, you're gonna be do or die. You're gonna be truly ride or die. And so this time, it hurt her some. Same in actually the game I played with them. Mike sort of being a lying liar who lies. Mike, because he'll say the same thing. In both cases, people started sussing onto it. Mm-hmm. And in both cases, it led to him getting voted out. And in neither case did Kiley go against him or vote against him. But she was able to recover once Mike left because she had relationships throughout.
Right.
And it just seemed like this time, everything was tilted to one side.
And it's like what you said before, and we'll be able to jump right into it with episode 11 is they had, and it wasn't necessarily like a blind spot with Jonathan, but it was more of they suddenly found themselves in this position where they had to rely on him and hope that he was able to pull someone, or maybe that Connor would be willingly or dumb enough to like fall into one of their traps of like, oh, just throw a vote over here and then we'll all be safe. Like, this is where Mike really goes into his game mode of, oh, well, when my back's against the wall, I'm just going to start claiming a bunch of advantages are out there and me and all of my allies have it. But the part that confused me the most was like, was him pitching the idea prior to the challenge of me, Kiley, and Jonathan all need to work there. We need to ensure that Jonathan wins immunity. I was like, no, why would you want Jonathan to win immunity? Have yourself win immunity if you're able to, or Kiley, and then that's one less person of like your actual twosome that you have to worry about. Then you can claim idol, advantage, safety without power, shot in the dark, whatever. Like, just throw stuff at the wall. But it just seemed like they were forced into a hand of having to believe in someone that they should have never trusted.
Yeah, and especially at that point, he had already won immunity, 3 times? And so it wasn't even like, oh, I can't win again because I have to downplay my threat. It's like, once you've already won it 3 times, just keep going.
Exactly. Especially when you're in a position where, by this time downplaying your threat was that horse had already long left. But yeah, I think that's right. I think when I talked about the fact that there are people in this game, and I think you're down to the final 5.
Yep.
In total, I'm trying to think of all of them. All of them, to my mind, have been completely underestimated by the rest of the cast who's got. He talked about Jonathan. Wow, that dude is slick.
He is.
He's so good at it. I mean, he's got because wasn't he in trouble early on?
He was like partially in trouble early on. It was never a thing where people would say his name as an option early on, but it would never gain any type of traction because he played so down low, and he got into a spot where he forced himself to be on a tribe with all original Ruken, and he was like, I'm going to throw my whole tribe under the bus. I'm going to make them believe the story that I was truly and fully on the bottom, when really he still had Victoria in his ear telling him like what happened. So they're still together. And it was because of that move. And then they get to merge. And then he's like, I'm still going to play this up. And he still is playing this up to Mike and Kiley to these votes. But what they couldn't realize, and they didn't realize until it was too late, was Oh no, he was already always with Victoria and McKenna, doing work to bring Michael in, doing work to bring Connor in. Like he was creating his little faction. As he said in here, he's had a hit list of like a boot list of his own, and he's like, it's been going off without tea right now. Like every single person I wanted to go at specific times have been going, and it's just like it's that silent assassin type.
Exactly. Since merge,
like,
has his name come up at all?
It's a vote has been thrown there here and there, but outside of that, he's never been like the option.
Yeah.
He's doing a lot. He's running away with it.
But someone who has been an option has been Michael. And I love the beginning of episode 11 where Michael's like, and McKenna are just talking about what's been going on. And McKenna's like, Michael's just like, I don't know why my name keeps being said. And McKenna's just like, well, it never came from me. I was pressured to do it. And then you cue to like the little time back, like, what do you want me to do? Say Michael? Okay, I'll say Michael. Michael could be the person. And she's like, I don't know how that guy got there. I loved it.
Yes.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, and then we also get the bombshell from Kiley saying, like, I'm going to reveal to Jonathan now. He's going to be the first person to truly know me and Mike know each other. Me and Mike have played a game. Mike still didn't want that information to be revealed, but Kiley felt like she had no choice. She felt like this is the moment to build trust. The issue with this, and I said it at the time in production chat, I was like, it's a good idea as your last ditch effort. The problem is you can't control how the person's going to react to that information because like, oh, you're giving me information that no one else is privy to. And then the other thing is like, we're at Final 7. Why are you telling me this now? You're only telling it because you need me to do something for you.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
And it's exactly what he said, you know, well, you would never vote out Mike over me. So especially, and she probably doesn't know that he has strong allies. She thinks that he's, you know, she's his number one.
Right. Again, it is Jonathan. But yeah, it's, and I found that kind of especially funny. For me, it was too late. But going back, maybe it had some value earlier on, but going back to the game we played, Kiley and I had a really good relationship and had a really good relationship until she stuck a dagger in my back and twisted it. But it was funny because one of the reasons she had said that she flipped on me was that I had told her relatively early on that I had a relationship with someone else in the game and that we could bring those three together and we could use that vote. And said, though, I'll cut him in a heartbeat. Probably, but whatever. And it was funny after her slitting my throat for that, I just got a little chuckle that was the final strategy she relied on. And
yeah,
it didn't work for her either.
It rarely does. I feel like it's unless you can get to the end, it doesn't work because people will feel some type of way about it. Especially if you're someone who's like looking at other people like, oh, these people are pairs that were made in this game where you're like, well, I have this pre-existing pair, but I'm not going to tell anyone about that. But I'm going to target you because you're in a pair right now. So it's like that double-edged sword that you're playing. You're playing with fire that entire time. Exactly. But again, with underestimating, because of all the underestimating, my favorite character this season is Salty Victoria.
Love it.
Where Victoria just goes in. She's like, I'm a little bit salty that I'm being seen as not playing the game, but like really I am because I'm planning to vote both of you out. And then they're like, oh, McKenna's going to be here. Well, I also have plans to vote McKenna out just after you two.
Every time she says something, it's so dry and even keeled. And then she just smiles at the end.
Yeah, she smiles, gives a little chuckle, and you're like, oh.
That's so cute. Oh. Yeah. She's again, she is much more competent, much more assertive this time around, which I think is great. And I'm very interested in her end game.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can talk about it right now. Like her end game, she's like, she's someone who is like what we were talking about. She's very loyal. She's very loyal to the person she made the biggest connection in, which is Jonathan. She's self-aware enough to realize, I know Jonathan's game. Like, some people don't know it. I do know it. I understand he can be a threat, but she's trusting her ability to be able to, if he's loyal to me and we do go to the end together, if it's a final two, I think I just need to have a killer final tribal council regardless. If I can knock that out of the park, it doesn't matter. I could at least make it a fight. Which is very interesting because like usually the person who brings someone to the end that's winning, like they may have some idea like, oh, maybe they're a threat, but then they'll be, but I'll win. It doesn't matter. Like, she's completely saying like, I could lose, but it's like, I also want to bring him to the end still. Yeah. So it's like, what do you do there?
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, the problem in this situation is that they have played virtually exactly the same game.
Yeah, they've been hand in hand.
When you get with someone in tribal council, it's going, I think, just from the way they're both perceived, I think the jury will perceive Jonathan as having done all the heavy lifting and not Victoria. I think Jonathan is a very good speaker as well, so I think the final tribal would be awesome. But unfortunately, I just think because Victoria is keeping a smaller personality as it is, and I don't mean that, it's just she is more laid back, a little more restrained than Jonathan is. I think the perception is going to be that he has been doing all the work. So Victoria, if you're listening, I know this happened 4 weeks ago, but slice his goddamn throat.
Yeah. And it's also that he's very social and Victoria is just a little bit more reserved. And so we do see Jonathan having a lot of relationships with other people, whereas we see Victoria, she seems to communicate a lot with Jonathan, obviously, and also a lot with McKenna. But we don't really see her communicating with Mike or Kiley or Michael too much.
And even with McKenna, like, she gives McKenna information, but even McKenna admits, like,
oh my God,
Victoria's very tight-lipped with me.
That
like,
was so, yes.
she doesn't get, and I feel like it's something that I feel like it was something she came into the game with. Like, she wanted to improve her spot that she wasn't able to really get the opportunity to do in Exile. So without a doubt, you can easily say Victoria's game this time around is 100-fold better than what she was even given the opportunity to do in her first go round. And that's just with having some exposure to a game. She hasn't played other stuff. She's only played Exile Island and Monte Carlo. But this time around, I feel like she was allowing herself to be in more rooms, even if she wasn't the one talking. She's at least around, and she's still like texting people. And then she found someone in Jonathan that could, and it was that opportune thing that you love in Survivor, where it's you make the right connection at the right time,
right? And
it pays off in dividends. And you know, we see it in many games where you are attached to someone that people are going to perceive as the person who made all the moves. You're a pair. You're not even a perceived pair at this point still, but they will eventually see you as a perceived pair. You could still get to final 5, final 4, and then suddenly, whether it's for your own move or someone else's move, Jonathan goes. And now who gets the credit? Victoria gets the credit by default because you can't claim moves on the jury.
Yep. Yeah, she would have to cut him.
But at least she had some comfort here because we first get into the Final 7 Immunity Challenge, which was a 3-stage challenge. I loved the challenges that we had them do. It was very like classic Survivor. We never seen it done before in an org, so I know Morgan and Ian were very happy to test out, could you do the Prisoner's Escape Challenge? And so everyone had to make a 3-foot long pole, or for Mike's case of breaking the game, a fishing net or a fishing line.
Smart.
So what Mike did there was he did start with a popsicle stick and another popsicle stick, and then used a line that got 3 feet long, and then threw it out to draw the cup in. And I was like, dude, we didn't make it clear rules in there that he couldn't do it. He took advantage of the situation. I love people that find the loopholes and challenges and almost break them, because then it forces production to be like, okay, how do we make this harder? How do we make it more explicit that they can only do it this way? So he does that. McKenna gets second, very close behind, because instead of cutting all the string and making it, she kept them all together and vigorously wrapped all the puzzle sticks so that they could not, even if they wanted to, bend. Then we see Kiley get it and Victoria get it. Mike gets to pick, because he got first in that round, who of the three remaining people, Jonathan, Mike, and Connor, can move on to part 2, and he picks Jonathan because that's their plan. No one knows about it, but like also Michael and Connor won't be surprised that Mike wouldn't pick them. So we move on to stage 2. Stage 2 was a fun little challenge of you used all 52 cards and you were trying to flip them using a pencil into the cup. I loved this. And there was like how many cards you got in. You then got point values based off the card. Poor Victoria was so close to winning that round, but kept getting ace, 2, ace, ace, so 2, 3.
Now we have 8.
Yeah, now we have 8. After 6 cards, we have 8. Oh, I loved it. But this is where a big decision gets made, because Jonathan gets first here and Kiley, and instead of pulling Mike, Jonathan makes the excuse of, I worked on a puzzle before with this person. They weren't good at it, and I want to win. I'm bringing Victoria. And right then and there, as we heard in the exit interview, Mike was like, and Mike has been voted out of the game. That's what I'm hearing as he's saying that.
Yeah, Mike's face right then was really funny. Like, how believable was that? Victoria's really good at puzzles. She's good at all the challenges.
But she messed up on some things. Like the side puzzle, I think that she was on took her a while, even though she won it. It took her a good bit.
Yeah, she made a mistake in the middle part of it, and it made her, she had to rearrange some things. But she's one of the best puzzle people that we've had.
Oh yeah,
she's good at puzzles. So
she's good at puzzles. But like, it's more, the more important thing is like Jonathan sort of being like, I can do what I want right now. Like, he's starting to get like, it's not cocky, but he's starting to feel himself a little bit. It's like, I can make the decisions I want to make right now, because what can that other side do? They're fully relying on me anyway. So can they afford being mad at me?
No.
And they can't.
No, he can do whatever he wants. I mean, he could have brought, right. So choosing Mike would have been the right move, because he normally doesn't do well at puzzles, but he's like, I'll take Victoria.
Yeah. Then that gets us to part 3, solving that classic vertical puzzle. And I will say Victoria almost got it right. Like on the first try, she had a couple pieces that needed to be flipped. And once she realized it, it was like literally almost only like 1 or 2 pieces. She flipped them, moved everything to the side, and won. It was not a contest. Oh, so Victoria wins first individual immunity ever for her.
Oh my gosh.
She's repping Exile proud, Bill, huh?
Exactly. Yeah, so I mean, once she's got that, and even maybe beforehand, unless Mike had been brought in and managed to win the challenge, the writing was kind of on the wall for the rest of the way.
Yes.
I mean, I think they both Mike and Kiley, scrambled probably, as much as they could. I do not think there was more that they could have done. But I don't know, it struck me the only thing that would have saved them is if they had convincingly come out with the, we have hardware, we have idle SWPs and whatever it is, and managed to sell that.
Yeah, the selling that was the huge part, and their biggest issue was they made the plan with Jonathan, who then goes to the 5 and says, here's the fake plan that they told me was a fake plan to try to convince either you, McKenna, or you, Connor, or you, Michael, to flip or throw a vote somewhere. They're trying to just do stuff. Here's what it is. They got nothing. They got nothing on them. Let's keep it simple, stupid, and let's get them out. And I think the other issue is just like how some players are approached. Like you can't approach all players the same way. Like you have to coddle certain people or like make it feel like it's their idea. Like Kiley wasn't making Connor feel like it was his idea or in his best interest. Their issue is just like, oh, vote this person out because they'll win the game if you don't vote them out. What can we do? We're a minority. And Michael, you should vote out this person out because they can win the game, while pitching Michael to everyone else. It's just like eventually the issue with playing games like this can be very successful until everyone starts talking and comparing notes and believe in each other. And you were going against the 5 people who, in one way or another, in some conglomeration, all had trust in each other.
Exactly.
So unfortunately, we go to that tribal. Mike wasn't able to attend that trial due to personal matters, but we had to move the game along. Still, Mike goes out in a 5-2 vote with 2 votes on Michael. I wonder from who. From Mike and Kiley.
He's gotten a lot of votes this game.
He has gotten a lot of votes.
He's always like, he's like the Romeo of this.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's the Romeo. He's the just in case vote.
Yeah, he has been. Yeah,
but like he was the just in case. Now it's just like, oh, we're just gonna keep voting you out of spite now.
Yeah.
But Mike is the 10th person voted out of the game, 11th person eliminated overall, and the 5th member of the jury. Bill, what do you think overall? Like final thoughts on Mike's game, his time on Monte Carlo?
Mike is, whether he's with you or against you, Mike is always hella fun to play with. I mean, he just is. He, and he freely embraces his role as he sees it as a villain, and he is always ready to give other people credit for their moves. He doesn't hold a grudge or anything. I think this time, though, I think the being the villain part works best, and this is what both he and Kiley did in Pandemic, is if you have enough of it in with both sides, so that you can bring them both along and still think this person is going to use their villainy, but they're going to use their villainy to my benefit. Both Kiley and Mike had a much harder time with it this time. Hate to see him go. Glad to see him go.
I was about to say, I thought you were about to pull that line of hate to see you go, but love to watch you leave.
I like that one. I'm writing that one down.
I'm gonna miss the Mafia music.
I was
a lot of fun. I feel
love
like Mike has played his genuine self, and it has been a lot of fun to watch. I do wonder, Bill, you can probably speak to this. Where did he place in Pandemic?
I was going to reach out to him to ask that. I think about the same place.
I wonder if he ever had plans, because Kiley did so much better than him in Pandemic. I wonder what his plan was to do things differently to maybe get further than her this time, or if he did have plans for that.
Right. They are joined at the hip. I would never see one betraying the other. If one did betray the other, it would be Mike in a heartbeat.
But who knows? Maybe one day we'll get to see one or the other play in a game without the other, and see what could happen. I would love to see multiple games of them doing that on their own, and then come back to each other, be attached to the hip again, go far, and then put both of them behind the other hand is a surgical knife to cut loose. But who's gonna pull it first? But that's Mike's game. We're now going to move to the eulogy of Kiley. So Kiley's just like, well, I'm fucked. Everyone's against me. I can try to. Okay, the Michael plan isn't working. Let me see if I can throw like some other name out there. And she's like, ultimately in this episode, it's her trying to paint a target on McKenna now as the. Oh, well, if you guys are going to vote me out, I assume like you're probably going to vote out Michael next. And then like McKenna's going to be your biggest run for your money if she gets the end. She hasn't, like, she's the one who has told us. She's the one who scapegoated and like said like this is what's going to happen at Tribal. So she may have some more better faith with members of the jury than I would. Everyone hates me, even though they were all my allies. They hate me.
Yeah. I mean, I think, by this time she was truly in a hard place. And I think largely because she mentioned it, I'm not sure if it was in a confessional or her post interview, but basically that what may have been the hardest thing with her is that once she and Mike got together, they decided to stick with Mike's people as opposed to Kiley's people, which big mistake. And I think, once again, I love them both, but as between the two of them, who are going to have the stronger lasting bonds with other people, it's definitely going to be Kiley. Mike is a great guy, but you can also sniff out the snake oil pretty quickly. So, I think, she saw bing, bang, boom. And then Mike on top of it. I think by that time, it was too late for her to be able to get some traction there.
Yeah, she was trying literally anything. She was like, well, if I could get Connor to just throw me a pity vote, then maybe we can tie it. Like,
it's like, oh, if only he can do it. Cut to him and Michael talking like, well, Kiley wants me to throw a pity vote for her. I'm not going to do it, but
I know.
It's like, now it's more of the story. It's like, even though this is Kiley's boot, this is more of a story of the five and what's going to be happening in this end game, because all of them now are trying to counter position to how do I get myself into that final three or final two? Who are the three that I need to be in? Who are the people that need to be going out first? It's pretty clear here that like McKenna's in danger, girl. Like no one, like people have good one-on-ones with her, but no one has been saying like, oh, I want McKenna to get the final four, final three. Like all the final threes, final fours are a combination of Connor, Michael, Jonathan, and Victoria. Jonathan and Victoria in the crux position of everything that's happening within that five. And McKenna's like starting to sort of sense that she's like, people aren't saying stuff to me. And also there's advantages out there. Like Connor most likely has another like 50-50 coin or idol or something. And we're getting close to the end game where you're forced to play them if you still have them. He could do that. And now I'm in trouble if Connor's not able to go. Maybe he's the one who needs to go. Then it's also like, Victoria doesn't tell me anything. Victoria could have an idol. She's smart, but she hasn't told me. And so it's like now trust, you had the trust, but now the trust is starting to fade as you're like starting to see the forest from the trees.
Exactly. And I stopped keeping track. What's out there besides Victoria's idol?
Connor has a 50-50 coin from the swap tribes.
Okay. And then do those all die next week? Or
I believe they all end at final five. So who knows what hijinks could happen in the next episode.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of crazy stuff there. There could have been more advantages out there. Some people took some gambles, but on a season phrase with gambling, they didn't take those type of gambles. They took others. But now, we have more conversations of like who's to take the three. But the biggest point of contention is it looks like Victoria and Jonathan are trying to decide that if we can get to three, do we want it to be Michael or do we want it to be Connor? And Victoria's trying to make this pitch of we almost need to like take Connor out earlier, because if we let him get to the end and there's a perception out there that he's like, the perception right now you're seeing through the lines is he's a GOAT. Like they don't think the jury will vote for him at the end. So it's like, but if we don't bring him to the end, are you going to get punished because you didn't bring the easy beat? And that's another point of like survivor contention is, do you want to beat the best by sitting next to the best? Or do you want to secure what you believe is the easiest win for yourself? I'm someone of the mind of, yes, in order to beat the best, you got to beat the best. But if you're sitting on the jury, that means I beat you. So I've already done it.
Yeah.
Right. Whoever wins is the best. Right.
Exactly. No, and I agree with that. I mean, especially in a final three. I mean, if there's one person with the perception of GOAT, I think people won't take that negatively. I wonder too, though, how much of it on Victoria's part is, let's assume that Connor was the better move to bring him to three. Is part of Victoria's wanting to bring Michael a sense of loyalty that may be stronger than it should be.
That's right. I agree. Like there's definitely like loyalty is a big factor here. And we also hear it with McKenna. It's also, she's less concerned about who she ultimately is voting out and putting on the jury. She's more concerned with, but who does that leave me with? So it's like, and I never thought about it in that other light. I've always thought about like, how do you cut the source of a problem? How do you cut the source of something that can cut someone else's legs from under them? Instead of, okay, this person leaves. Now what's the dynamic of the whole group? Instead of just thinking like one round at a time, one decision at a time. Now you're more thinking of like several scenarios of, I vote this person out. Now it's this combination. This group's here, this group's here. I'm in the middle, or I'm an outcast, and there's this big four now that I was not privy to. So do I take this person out instead? Because then that makes it smaller. It's a very interesting way of thinking through around a survivor, I feel.
Right.
Oh, man. But let's have some more Victoria fun. It's final six immunity. Extreme Flip Cup comes back again. Elimination style. Start with just two. We get the 3 cups. And then in the final, it's 4 cups. But what made this like almost like great Survivor was it comes down to Victoria and the person who's going home if they don't win in Kiley. And I was on the edge of my seat watching this challenge live. And I was like, oh my God, if Kiley does this, I don't know who's going home. Like, is it Michael? Is it McKenna? Like, are they actually going to pull the trigger on McKenna, who hasn't, at this point in time, before the final 6 vote, 3 of the final 6 have never received a vote cast against them. In Kiley, Connor, and McKenna. We leave this episode with only Connor never receiving a vote in this game. Which is impressive to get that far in the game and half the cast be like, never put my name down.
There was a really nice moment. So first of all, Victoria's challenge performance from beginning to the end. So if you watch her at the beginning when she first starts Flip Cup, like she can't do it at all. And then she got really good fast. And then in the final round, when it's Victoria versus Kiley, there's this really great moment where they both flip at the same time and it lands perfectly in sync. It was really fun to watch.
It was so much fun.
And my favorite thing about the whole thing was that in Victoria's confessional afterwards, she said, well, I started out really badly in that, but it let me practice. And since I had to flip so many more cups than the people who got out first, the whole first round was kind of, getting that muscle memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I, again, wasn't something I was thinking about, but it's extremely true. It was like, if you're not good at something, reps make you better. And having more, and like, if you're very good instantly, but you don't truly know like how good you are consistently, you make it like very easy on the first try. When you add another cup or you add more, you don't have that rhythm. You don't have that idea of, okay, this is what I need to do. This is where the cup needs to be placed. This is the finesse of the touch that I need to have in order to push it up. And Victoria's a smart girl. As she said, she can show you her econ diploma if you want. Just let her into the alliance first.
But I love it. Travel. She's like, I can do 6 now.
Yeah.
Like,
like she's just like, I was like, I'm safe, so I decided to practice more and I can do 6.
she's so deadpan about everything she says, and then just the chuckle at the end. It's so funny.
You never know when it will come up again.
No.
Right?
You never know. But Connor now is questioning moving forward in the game with Victoria with the second win because he wanted to have that win. He wanted the resume point of having an individual immunity. Now she has two.
Mhm.
And he's starting to be like, okay, if I can get to it, I need the people that are doing well not to be here. So now Victoria's doing better. I don't know if I can actually go to the end with her now. So it does make me curious. Like, it's great. I love seeing Victoria get a full game experience, but it gets me concerned at times of like her doing the stuff for everyone else. Like, I'm winning so that Mike can't, that Kiley can't. Now, is it going to go against her?
Mm-hmm.
Right. No, I think that's part of the reason why, this next round is so interesting because yes, all of a sudden, again, as we've said, Victoria has had her fingers in a whole bunch of pies, but hasn't been the more obvious one. Okay?
Right. It's very covert.
Now she's got a big old spotlight on her. And how is that going to play out? Is Jonathan, I don't know if Jonathan would be worried about that, because I think Jonathan too has the impression that as between the two of them, he's the one that's been running the show. I could see where Connor and possibly Mackenzie might start focusing on those dual immunity wins as being too much of a resume point.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know, not sure about Michael, but I think that's, I don't know, the way I see it right now, my sense overall is that between these five, McKenna would probably be the easy vote, quote unquote.
Right.
I think that would be their first instinct.
Mm-hmm.
I think Victoria's at risk because of those two immunity wins.
Mm-hmm.
As among the guys, I mean, again, they all still remain kind of on the down low, which in a lot of ways gives one or both of the ladies potentially a chance to sort of really mix things up.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, could the two of them pull one of the guys at least to cut one of the other two's throats?
Right. And ultimately, it's like we're heading into this tribal council and we hear from Victoria and Jonathan again. Victoria's again talking about like how I will go to the end with Jonathan. So like that's the guy in theory that you would pull. But Jonathan also in the same breath goes, I'll cut Victoria. I'll cut anyone.
Mm-hmm.
All strokes are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All strokes of a knife cut the same way on someone. So even if it's someone that you very much enjoy, he's more of a, I'm not going to say cutthroat player, but I think he's more of a, it's like more of like Machiavellian. Like the ends justify the means. It's more of a, I like you, but you are in my way. I would love to go to the end with you. I don't want you taking votes away from me when I see these other people I could definitely beat if I'm next to.
He reminds me of Greg Langstine playing in Exile, because he definitely, like, he knew what he needed to do to get to the end. He was like, let's go out, Mackenzie. Okay, why not?
But will Jonathan do what Greg couldn't? Greg was very loyal to the people that he was loyal to, and the loyalty wasn't returned. And does Jonathan have that opposite mindset of, I'll be loyal to you until like either I don't find use in you anymore, or I think you could beat me or take votes away from me if we're sitting next to each other. So that's what we're going to have to wait and see in these next two episodes is, does Jonathan make that move, or does he also fall into Greg's spot where he goes out next round because everyone starts to wake up, or does he keep moving forward?
I think that's right. And I think the interesting thing is when you cut someone who has been your partner throughout,
mm-hmm.
that is a chance of going two different ways.
Oh, yeah.
It's either, damn, what an incredible strategic move, or you are the scum of the earth.
Oh, the bitter juror.
The bitter juror.
This could be a bitter jury. I think there's definitely some potential for bitter jury.
I think there's definitely high stakes. Like, I know the cast, for the most part, they all enjoyed each other. But I also think from a games aspect, though, they could be like, but damn, you were supposed to be with me. And and it wasn't this, in my mind, it wasn't the smartest move for you to take me out when you did. So why should I give you my vote because you took me out? Like,
right.
Even though in the same breath, you'd be like, you should vote for me because I did take you out.
Oh yeah, and I don't mean life bitter. I mean,
game bitter.
As you said, they are, I get the sense, really going to take the final 2, 3, whichever it is, to task. No one's getting warm, fluffy questions here.
No one's getting warm, fluffy questions. But we ultimately see Kiley go here in a 5-1 vote. She's now the 6th member of the jury, 11th person voted out, 12th overall. Final remarks from myself for Kiley's game. She played an incredible social game. Her pre-merge was probably one of the best pre-merge games of the cast. She came in with no enemies going into that merge. The only thing that was her downfall was, unfortunately, holding on to Mike too long in the detriment of her own game, where she would have had more control if they took out a Serpone player, if they took out Jonathan at the beginning.
Yes.
And they recognized Jonathan as the threat instead of the outlier. Because you remove Jonathan as like, oh, he can be 8th Serpone or 7th Serpone. You just remove him, and now you're like, okay, we have Mike now. He can be that 8th person, and then it's different. It's like you remove one person instead of another, the game changes dramatically. In this case, you would still have Andrew, Parker, and Margaret all willing to work and go deep with her, along with Mike. That gives her at least 4 options, and then you would have Connor around like adjacent and Michael adjacent. So you have way more ways to move around, whereas they eliminated people that they didn't necessarily need to. But Bill, what's your final thoughts on Kiley?
Exactly. Kiley is just an amazing woman. I love her to death. She's incredibly social, and incredibly good about it and sincere about it, even if she does sort of draw a knife across your throat game-wise. She's a really incredible person. I think here, I think it's pretty much what you said, Alex. And, when they got to that crossroads at the merge, do we go with Kiley's group or do we go with Mike's group? She let Mike make the choice, and it was the wrong choice.
Yep. And once again, it was underestimated players feeling that in Victoria and McKenna, they're like, well, they're always going to be loyal to me, but they had other priorities.
Exactly.
They just didn't let you be privy to it. I do want to go, before we go into the MVPs, I want to know from you, Bill, who from this cast, especially who you think will be a part of the jury, will be the most of your iconic phrase, it's just a game. Like, who's that person? Who's giving you that energy from this cast?
Oh, I definitely Mike. Mike's just that guy that, he's very aggressive and he's very passionate and all that good stuff. But when he gets shown the door, he does realize it's a game. And, game respects game. Definitely Mike. I'm going to stick with Mike.
I think that's a solid choice.
I think that's a great choice. He does have it's just a game energy.
Yeah, it's like that. Oh, I'm so proud of them for blindsiding me, because now I know what it's like to be blindsided. So it's like, it sucks, but I'm proud. But that moves us over to our MVPs. So first, the results for episode 9 and 10. The audience has voted, and it was an overwhelming McKenna for the audience vote for last week.
100%. Good
so
choice.
that puts her in the lead overall with 5 MVPs on the season.
Wow.
But it's a new week. New MVPs will be made. It could change. But I'm going to start for episodes 11 and 12. Bill, who is your MVP of the week?
There are 2 people in my perception who are actually running this game. And one of those people just swept the immunities and is my queen anyway. So my MVP is Victoria.
That is an amazing pick. I feel so good with that pick, Bill. I love seeing Victoria in the MVP column. Carrie, who's your MVP for the week?
It's Victoria. Victoria is the silent assassin. She has become so strategic, which was not something that we were really able to see when she played Exile. And the funnest part about it is that she's kind of able to get Jonathan to do her work for her, right? So she runs strategy with him, and then she sends him out to go communicate with everybody about what's happening. So she's sitting in a good place. Plus the 2 immunity wins. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah. So it's very historical. I do not allow clean sweeps here. Victoria is a solid choice, and she was also among my 2 for this week. But I'm going to counteract and using your own points against you and pick Jonathan as my MVP for the week. I feel he's starting to get a big stranglehold over this endgame, and he's not the name that people are starting to get a little tentative of. It's Victoria because of those immunity wins. Have they been helpful? Sure. At the same time of Jonathan doing work for Victoria, Victoria's equally doing work for Jonathan. And like that, it goes both ways. So I sort of feel like it's only fair to also have Jonathan in the MVP with Victoria for this week, because you couldn't do one without the other. They're both placing themselves in the middle of this 5, and it's just a matter of who ultimately gets the benefit of being in that middle spot of that 5. And for now, I'm going to lean Jonathan, but I will hope for Victoria because she is the Queen Victoria for a reason. But with that, our top 3 for our MVP count is tied for second with 4 MVPs are, and it's only fitting, Jonathan and Victoria.
Yeah.
And in first with 5 MVPs is McKenna.
Wow.
So the audience, you guys will have the task. You need to pick your MVP for the week. We'll be posting it on our Instagram story. Submit your votes. We'll announce that not next Sunday, but the following Sunday for the finale, as we're going to have a super recap to go over the final 5 through the end game. So with that, we're going to have, after the finale episode and before the recap airs, we're going to put in another Instagram poll for the fans to put in the audience vote for MVP. It both will be announced at the last recap in just a few weeks. It's crazy that this season is almost over, but we thank you all for continuing to ride this wave with us. So remember, please like this video, press subscribe, hit that bell for all notifications so you're aware if you use YouTube for your notifications for when all of our episodes drop. Join our Facebook page. That's also where we'll put up links for the videos to get you to the YouTube channel to watch the episodes, as well as be able to give questions for the exit interviews that Lilly, Morgan, and Ian do that air on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And obviously our episodes will be airing on Mondays and Thursdays per usual. Follow us on all of our social media. You'll see it at the end of that video. Thank you again, Bill, for coming. Thank you, Carrie, for hopping on and helping from a production aspect. I'm your host, Alex. We will see you after the finale. Good night.